Greetings once again, dear ones. So, our conversation turned out to be a little longer than expected. So, I made two parts out of it. So, if you listen to part one, that was more around Brian's NDE experience and how it's affected his life and his philosophy and his way of being. Part two now is going to be about the Eight Extraordinary Meridians, which is the Daoist, I want to say, version of acupuncture, of Chinese medicine. So I hope you enjoy the second part, and we'll see you at the other end.
All right, fire away. What kind of questions you got?
Okay. We had been talking about the type of acupuncture, Chinese medicine
Yeah.
that you do, and I was really fascinated by the how do I want to call it? The Taoist
hmm
perspective, I guess, and how that differs from, I guess we'll say, traditional Chinese medicine. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And then, what can people do right now? What, from a Chinese medicine perspective, to stay healthy? There's all the crap in the chemtrails and all the toxins that we're being subjected to. And I thought it would be good to look at a Chinese medicine perspective on, what what can be
Totally.
helpful. I don't know if there's anything in Chinese medicine that can help, like with the spike protein, the graphene oxide,
Yeah,
all
I
of that
mean,
stuff.
and I'll
But
dip into that too because um I'm treating definitely some patients with some interactions with the shot. And
okay.
it's one of those where I always try to meet people where they're at, no matter where they're at.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
sometimes things affect people in certain ways that it doesn't in others. But on that account, so
Right.
it's like let's drop back. And so it's like, what is traditional Chinese medicine? So traditional Chinese medicine is, well, I mean, the history is vast for sure.
Yes.
The Some of the main styles of what we would call TCM were almost shaped and honed in the Maoist Chinese revolution in China. And so what took
Okay.
place was they wanted to basically distill 4,000 years down to points and prescriptions for the most part that could readily be um, taught and to where these people can go out and treat. And they also wanted to remove any type of spirituality out of the medicine because, again, with it,
Oh, interesting.
yes, oh,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely. And so any type of spirituality or any type of what we call the Jingqi Shen, which is the three treasures, I'll get into that.
Okay.
It was very much, it became a this point for this point, this point for that point, or for this condition.
Hmm.
And does it work? Did that work? Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it definitely works. But the question would arise, like, well, why do they work? Like, what actually
Mm.
is happening? And so the classical Chinese medicine, the classics, when you say you're a classical Chinese medical practitioner, what you're doing is you're working within the classics of the medicine. So the whatever 3,500 years prior to the communist revolution. And so this
Hmm.
is where you get into the esoteric and the alchemical and the Taoist and all of the mystery schools. Like, this is the stuff that we get into where um my teacher, Master Ewan, Jeffrey Ewan, would talk about, we had the materia medica of all of our herbs. Well, there's another materia medica that the Taoists used that was all stones, stone medicine. And so
Mm-hmm.
they readily used animal products. They used bone. They used stones. They used crystals. They used herbs. They used everything and anything you can think of. I mean, this is where the concept of alchemy, alchemical transformation came from. So
Mm. Okay.
Taoist Taoist medicine and specifically the ones that I really like to work with is called the 8 Extraordinary Meridians. The 8 Extraordinary Meridians, or the 8 extras, are away from the 12 primary meridians of TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine, of like the liver, the spleen, the stomach, the lungs. Again, I still work with those every day, for sure. They still work. But if I'm working with someone, and let's just say they let's just say they have an injected substance into their body that they can't get rid of. And so what that is that from a from a Daoist perspective, that substance has gone into the Jing level, or the Jing essence. The Jing level is the deepest aspect of who we are. It holds our blueprint and our story. And so the 8 Extraordinary Meridians are allowed to access the Jing level. And so
Jing?
Jing. Yeah.
Okay.
And so obviously
so that would be the DNA.
Yes. And so the
That's
DNA
why you
level
started
of Chinese.
to say DNA.
Yes. Okay. And so you have the Jing level, the Qi level, and the Shen. And Jing is stored in the kidneys. So when we've made the decision to come back, or we've made a decision to come to this vibration, this world, we make a contract. And again, the Taoists, what's so funny, it very much aligns with what I experienced when I crossed over. And you make a contract, you have a blueprint, you have a mission. This is what I want to accomplish. Okay. Here's the scroll that I'm reading from. That blueprint is stored in the kidneys. It's stored in the Jing essence of Qi. So the very deep, viscous, black liquid, they call it. It's very hard to get to. We can access it every 90 days. More on that later. But so if I want to work with someone at that level, or if I want to work at my constitutional level, like if I know there's something that I've always supposed to be doing in life and I don't know what it is, I know there's something, whatever, maybe you're, again, this Jing levels, we can talk about your gender, your sexuality, your you feel like you're the wrong color, you're in the wrong body, you're in the wrong timeline, you're in the wrong, all of these things can be worked on what they call the Chiang Mai. So the Chiang Mai is the first meridian in the 8 Extraordinaries. The Chiang Mai meridian allows an individual to tap into the prenatal essence of who they were before, like the soul body, and they're allowed to tap into that to be able to make a conduit into the postnatal. So the prenatal and the postnatal, the Chiang Mai is the conduit to allow for the realization, or at least to be able to tap into the blueprint of the story of who you are. Okay, who am I really? What is the real purpose of who I am? So that's Chiang Mai. Ren Mai, the next channel, is the Sea of Yin. So we see the Yin as these Yin would be considered female. It'd be considered nighttime. The moon, it would be considered longevity. So the Ren Mai becomes active when the umbilical cord is cut. So the instant the umbilical cord is cut, Ren Mai becomes active. The Ren Mai runs up the front of the body. And this is where we learn nourishment. We learn self-nourishment. So a lot of individuals or a lot of patients will come to me and they may not say it, but a lot of times, and even I would be considered this too, possibly. I was always searching for something, right? I'm always searching for something to fulfill me. There's a fulfillment that there was something that I was searching for that would not satiate my desires. Like, and no matter what it was, however many jobs or relationships, there was something missing. I would work with that patient on the Ren Mai. The Ren Mai becomes active again when the umbilical cord is cut, and also when the child is put up to the breast or to the caregiver that's giving them their substance. So what they're learning is a vibratory pattern based upon nourishment. So if your mom or your caregiver, whoever it was in a situation of fear or anxiety, that imprint of fear and anxiety is passed on to the child during a time of nourishment. So it's a very confusing thing for that for that child to learn that.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you're
Mm-hmm.
working with the 8 Extraordinary Meridians, and this goes for all of them, okay? And this is where also I always explain to my patients, and this removes myself as a healer, so to speak. I am a conduit of change, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm tapping into these meridians because I know the sequence. Okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
not me doing anything to you. That's allowing the possibility of change for you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why
Mm-hmm.
I don't, not every patient I work with, I go there with, right?
Okay.
You've got to have a mutual respect and understanding, a trust. The patient needs to be able to go there. They need to be able to, because it's a pretty, you're doing internal alchemy.
Right.
And
Right.
so, do you want me to keep going with the channels?
Yeah. Well, first, okay, before you do, I know the central meridian runs up the front of the body. So
Yes.
where is this meridian in relation to the central one? Because you said it was at the front of the body. Is it above it, below it, to the
Oh,
side?
oh,
How
okay. So,
I'm just curious.
right. So, well, Chiang Mai has five directions, but for the most part, just to keep it simple,
Uh-huh.
it originates what they call spleen four. Spleen four is found at the inside medial aspect of the foot.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the name spleen, well, we call it spleen four. In Chinese, it's translated very similar to grandparent grandchild. And the reason why that is, at least what I was explained to by Master Yuan, was that point on the inside of the foot holds the potentiality of you working with your karmic ancestral lineage. And the
Okay.
reason that is because you're stepping the first step of the 10,000. So as you take that step into the world, it's the first step of the 10,000. And the 10,000 in Taoist means the many things, right? 10,000 is just a name for whatever, eternity and kind of the myriad of things they call it. And so
Okay.
when you tap into spleen four, which is the beginning of Chiang Mai, and you vibrate the needle, all the needles need to be vibrated. Now, Janine, think of this. And this is what's so amazing. This is the part, and like I said, some of the people that are listening, I might be familiar with Itzhak Bentov with Stalking the Wild Pendulum, the book that came out many, many years ago. And they set up this kind of framework for the holographic universe. They talked about the different vibrational frequencies. They talked about standing waves and all of these different things. Let's go back 4,000 years. 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, the Taoist acupuncturists, sages, whatever you want to call them, they knew that in order to get to the Jing essence level of the body, the needles had to be vibrated in a very tight, concentric way to where the chi of the practitioner had to start at kidney one, the sole of the foot, to
Mm-hmm.
tap into the vibration of the earth, to come up through the arm, to go into the patient, to be able to start that channel system so that the body knows, maybe not so much the body, but the body as a whole knows that we're getting to work on this specific set of meridians. I
Okay.
mean, think of the layering of that.
Yeah.
They, I know, and so that's like when we talk about vibrations. Vibrations is integrally it's part of Daoist level Chinese medicine. It's also, this is why you can use stones, herbs, and such to work with these specific meridians, because those herbs and stones have vibrations that match the channels that you're working at.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
this has been passed down for, again, millennia.
So how are the needles vibrated?
You actually, as I'm inserting it, I'm
Uh-huh.
inserting it to a certain level, and my hand is shaking the needle at a very fast rate, and
Oh.
it's a very subtle vibration.
Uh-huh.
But again,
Oh.
Master Yuan would say it's coming from kidney one, which is the bottom of the foot. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm vibrating and I'm bringing it up through the arm.
Hmm.
And what's always cool sometimes when I'm working with patients, I don't tell them where the channels are, because I don't want to, like, whatever, lead the witness.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'll work on these channels and they'll say, "Oh, hey, I felt that in my left shoulder, or I felt that in my chest. And it's like, okay, well, that's where the channel goes. Or I had another patient the other day. It was a gentleman that I never thought, again, don't ever judge a book by its cover.
Right, yeah.
I just didn't think he was kind of like whatever woo woo. And all of a sudden I put spleen 4 in, that one at the bottom of the foot, or the foot there. And all of a sudden he was like, the entire room turned blue for him.
Wow.
And he's like, is that supposed to happen? And I'm like, yes, for you.
For
yes.
you, right. Yeah.
So, you know, so to answer your, I know I'm going all over the place, but to answer your question, the front of the body is Ren Mai, the back is Du Mai.
Okay.
And so, and Chiang Mai kind of runs up the middle and it connects the two. So the Chiang Mai connects the prenatal and the postnatal. The Chiang Mai is our ability to tap into, if we want to call it the auric egg, or we want to, the ancestral karmic, the akashic records, however we want to say that, the Chiang Mai is able to tap into that. And so a lot of times after I'm done needling a patient, it might be that night, it might be the next day, it might be a week from then. Oftentimes they're going to be doing something, probably walking, maybe even driving, maybe taking a shower, right? Their mind is not really thinking. All of a sudden they'll have an idea, and that idea may be something that they've been waiting for, because the channel allowed for the possibility of change. It changed a vibrational pattern. It changed an individual to see something a little bit differently. Like they put on the glasses. They went outside, they put on the glasses. They were able to see it. It's still the world, but they're seeing it a little differently. And they're like, wait a minute now. And they'll always come in often and they'll say, you know what? I was thinking the other day that, such and blah, 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 blah. And it'll be something. And often they don't make the connection. And I'll say, oh, that's cool. Like, and again, I just let them work it out because it's their journey.
Right.
But I'm just kind of listening, and I'm like, oh, that's neat. Well, why do you think that happened? Or,
Brian, this sounds so powerful. What I mean,
yeah.
I've been to a lot of acupuncturists in my life. How come maybe more people are doing this type of acupuncture now, but I haven't known anyone.
Well, again, this is one of those things where I'm laughing a little bit at myself. It's like I kind of stumbled into this,
well,
and it was one of those. I know,
not coincidence,
I know,
of course.
I know. So it's that. So I was insanely lucky to choose the school in Ashville, North Carolina, to work under Master Jeffrey Ewan, Master Jeffrey Ewan. He's an 88th generation Daoist priest.
Wow.
And yeah, so his lineage goes back to Lao Tzu, which is the gentleman who wrote, or I say gentleman, but whoever wrote the Tao Te Ching, it goes back to that person.
Okay.
And so that lineage has been passed down to practitioners over time, like 88 generations worth. And so I just happened to be.
I can't even imagine what 88 generations.
I know.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, how far back does 88 generations go? Wow.
Pretty long.
Yeah.
Long enough to, and this is the part that's, again, when listening to him is so amazing, and learning from him, because he always says these little nuggets and you're like, yes, and so he's like, now when you're needling spleen 4, he's like, you're not just needling spleen 4 for that individual and their karmic ancestral record. The lineage that you're being taught under, that you're needling from, all of the information from all of those timelines and everything is going into that needle, into that patient. Think about that. And so Master Yun was very big, and I mean, he still is. He's still alive. He's very big on self-cultivation. And that is something that he drives home heavily on just about every encounter that you have learning with him. It's self-cultivation. It's like, how do we become better practitioners? Self-cultivation. And so this is the part where after, and I said this to the students the other day. I said after I worked, we studied under him for 4+ years round the clock. So it was like a 6-year program or 7, whatever. At our final meeting together, he says, I just want to let you know that, truly, truly, you don't need the needles.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, wait, what? Couldn't you have told us that in the beginning? And because what he was getting at was, he would always say that healing begins when you think of the person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Healing begins when you take their pulse. Healing begins
Right.
when you just put your hand on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the healing part. The needles are for show, right? So
Got
the
it.
needles are there as a physical manifestation to be able to direct chi,
Mm-hmm.
to just be able to have the patient grab onto something, and the practitioner to say, I'm putting this energy right here at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But it could absolutely be done with the fingertips. It could absolutely be done by thought. It could absolutely be done by a placement of a crystal or a stone, or so I'm saying the needles. You had asked me, like, what can we do now? It's the, does everyone need to fly over here and get treated? No. If they want to, that's cool. But you could also treat you could also treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You could also treat yourself on some of these channel systems, and it's based upon thought. And like I said, I'll get into that a little bit later.
Like okay, a couple of questions that came to me. One is there a directory somewhere for people who aren't in Florida of doctors, Chinese medicine doctors who
Yes.
do this form?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What I would do is I went to the Daoist traditions in Ashville, North Carolina. And there is an alumni page there, and they have practitioners that are there. And yeah. And again, this is one of those where I'm not trying to negate other styles of acupuncture, practices of acupuncture out there, because all of them work really great for many people, and many things for many people are going to be different.
Right.
Right.
Well,
It's going to all
and
be
not
different.
everybody would be interested in this particular
Right.
path, right? I mean, somebody
Right.
may
This
just
is a
really be
deep
coming
path.
for something, some specific symptom or issue that's going on, and that's fine. That's what they
Right.
want. So, and where would be a map of these 8 extraordinary meridians?
That's a good
I mean,
question.
you're saying someone could do this for themselves.
I know.
Like,
Maybe I
okay.
should. I know. Maybe I should make a video or something. I don't know. Maybe I should do a video or something on these. That's a thought.
Yes, it is. I would certainly post that.
Yes. Well, I will squeeze that in somewhere.
On your long, I'm sure your list is long on your long
Oh,
list, just like everybody's is these days.
I know. I know. No, I think, yeah. As I'm speaking, I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Because here's the thing: does it work with touch and thought? And yes, 100%. So it's like, okay, what are some of the things that possibly, how would one go about that? That's a great idea, because some of the books that I have connections to or access to are very in depth, right? That they're not you're gonna look at them and be like, nope. Because there's a massive understanding that needs to take place before some of these things can be.
Oh, yes.
Right. So let me think about that one. I will definitely.
I mean, maybe
maybe
there are a few, like, how do I say, maybe like universal sorts of without trying to go into too much detail and too deep, but some, like a starting place that might be helpful for some people.
I think that, yes. And what I could do is I can even come up with a couple of drawings, or possibly. And again, so it's one of these where if you were to condense some of these channel systems right by themselves, like if I was to do like the short and skinny, we're on an elevator and we got to talk, well, maybe it's a really long elevator, but Chiang Mai deals with our blueprint, right? Chiang Mai deals with who am I? Why am I here? Okay. That's Chiang Mai, because you're able to tap into the soul body having the human experience. So you're able to kind of go into that download and be like, oh yeah, wait a minute, why am I here again? Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay.
Well, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm raising my hand. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw you. No, I don't. And so Ren Mai, so that's Chiang Mai, and spleen 4 is right on the inside of the foot. So it's the inside of the foot, right behind kind of that right behind the
bone. Right?
Yeah, the medial side. I'm trying to think of the try not to use a technical term, but like you slide your foot past the big toe area, in and around that area. So that's spleen 4.
Yeah, and that one's easy to find a map of.
Pericardium 6 is the closing point, and that one is 2 inches in the center of the wrist. I mean, it's like if you have your wrist and you're looking at it, and you fold your wrist and you kind of slide back 2 inches.
Okay.
It's right in the center of the arm, right there, 2 inches above the wrist. That's pericardium 6.
Okay.
And so those are the opening and closing points of that channel. Ren Mai deals with the feminine. So it's the feminine energy. It's also deals with the orifices. So sphincters of the body. It also deals with nourishment. Like, are we bouncing in and out of relationships? Do we keep ending up with the same guy, the same girl, the same? It's like, how, like, I just left this guy before. Like, here I am, you know what I mean? It's the same pattern. It's patterns of trying to find nourishment through someone else or someplace else, right? Just because you move, there you are, so to speak, right?
Okay.
And so Ren Mai works with self-nourishment, being able to nourish thyself so you don't have to go out looking for it from anyone else. Very powerful.
Yeah.
That opening point is right. If you look at your thumb and you slide back on the top, like if you make like a karate chop looking thing on the top of it, where the thumb, and you slide back, it's about, I don't know, 2 inches up there is lung 7. The name of that point is like lightning strike.
Is that the one?
So
is that the one that's in the V?
Yeah, it's right behind the V of the thumb, the snuff box.
Right.
We call it the anatomical snuff box. Yeah, it's right back there.
That one's I know, like that's used for acupressure a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be LI5, large intestine 5 in my world.
Oh, okay.
So the next channel system is the Daimai. So the Daimai is the Sea of Yang. The Ren Mai is the Sea of Yin. So the Daimai is the Sea of Yang, and this becomes active when the baby starts to turn her head. Right? She's looking around. She's taking in the world. She's like, okay, all right, I'm here now. I'm part of this, whatever this place is. And that's beginning of the spine.
Okay.
When the baby starts to move around, right? So that's the beginning of do 4, which is right at the base of the spine, right? Okay. So this is kind of the beginning of what other people would say Kundalini energy. And so
are you talking the base of the spine, like the coccyx? Or
no, that's
farther?
do 1. So do 1, but do 4. These are the major. Yes, I mean, I am saying that, but do 4 is Ming Men. And again, we're going down a rabbit hole that is very deep. So I'm trying hard to not go into professor mode. But do 4 is, remember what we talked about Ming Men? I'm sorry, the kidneys, where all of our information is stored in the kidneys.
Yep.
That's do 4. Do 4 is at L2, lumbar 2.
At L2.
It's it's L2 of the spine. That right there is the seat of the blueprint, right? So the kidneys in Chinese medicine are highly, highly revered.
Right. I know that.
And so this is form becoming function, right? So this is the yin. So the yin is the solid, yang is the movement. Right. So we're starting to build that microcosmic orbit around the spine of the chest. So we're starting to build, the energy raises up the spine, descends to the front of the body, raises up the spine, descends to the front of the body. So we're starting this circle, this vibratory pattern, right? That cycle, Ren Mai is highly active until the age of 3. The age of 3 is when the fontanelle closes over the top of the head.
Okay.
And so that Master Yun would say that is where we begin. That's where we're cut off, so to speak, from source.
Oh, interesting.
So the silver thread that's there at the top of the head it's not severed, right?
Okay.
It's just closed off. It's there, but babies are. You've seen a baby. They look around the room like they're all over the place. They're like a cat. They're watching things in the corner of the room. They're still connected to that vibration. They're still connected to the other side. And so when the fontanelle closes, it kind of shuts that off for now.
Okay. So it's there, but it means it's either not accessible or hard to access.
It's harder to access now because now you've taken human form. If you lived solely in that world, you'd be schizophrenic. You know what I mean? And that's again, these channels treat schizophrenia.
Oh, interesting.
And oh yeah, because again, he would always say, like, it's great to meditate and to visit those worlds, but remember, you've chosen to come back here for a reason. And so okay. So the third year. So cycles of 7 and 8. So at the age of 7, we get another channel called Yin Wei Mai, Yin Wei and Yang Wei. Yin Wei and Yang Wei are the record keepers of time. And so when we are old enough, say 7 or 8, we walk into the world and we say, okay, I'm leaving mom and dad for a little bit. I'm going out a little bit. I'm going out, maybe hanging out with the neighbors, or I'm going to school. And man, people are kind of mean. This isn't what it was like in the house. And so
hopefully
Yin Wei, yeah. Or maybe you had a really bad house and you went outside and you're like, oh, hey, everything's nice out here. So, one of those,
a contrast
can absolutely be, for sure. The Yin Wei Mai deals with the 9 heart pains, the 9 heart pains of life, the heart pains of a relationship, of job, of family, of all of these different things, of self. And so the 9 heart pains is basically called the 9 heart palaces. And how much time do we spend in those palaces? And when we choose to spend time in that, it costs chi, or it costs energy, or it costs money, like a currency, right? So we're using a currency of the body to spend time in a failed relationship, right? It's costing currency to live in a job that is not only unfulfilling, but that is literally killing you. And so when you start to look at this and you're like, okay, I only have a finite amount of life here, right? And that's stored in my Jing essence, right? That's my cup of life. My cup of life runs out a little every day. And that's okay. It's supposed to. But am I speeding up the process by doing things I'm not supposed to be doing? Or am I living in a timeline that's not right, or not serving me? I should say, not right. Not serving me in the best way. And so can I return back to the center of these palaces? Like, can I visit a relationship, but then come back to myself? Can I visit a job and then come back and be with myself, with my family? Right? Can I visit whatever, what's going on in the world, and then come back? So that's Yin Wei Mai. So when you work with Yin Wei Mai with a patient, you're allowing them to process some of those triggers of the records that they've had about themselves, that they tell, the story that everyone likes to tell about themselves. Just like I told earlier, like I have a story that I died, so I tell a story that becomes my story. But the trick is not to be that story. It's a story,
yes.
right? But not be it. So this is the one where you are participating in the world, but you're not allowing the world to kind of consume you.
Okay.
And this is something that has become very powerful. I think I again, maybe this is part of my existence, and everything happened for a reason. I believe that. But maybe someone listening could say, like, okay, how much time am I spending thinking about this? Like, and what is it serving me? And the more currency and the more energy that I'm diverging to this thought pattern, the more that I'm not allowed to live, or I'm denying myself the ability to live my destiny, not somebody else's. And so Yin Wei Mai allows us to access that part to say, okay, it's time to let go of that part of the story, come back to the center, right? We're not forgetting.
Right.
We're just right. So that opening point is about 5 inches up, or 5 inches up. It's I'll say 5 soon, but we'll say 5 inches up from the medial malleolus, so the medial ankle bone in the center of the leg. So down on the lower leg. And that opening point is what we would say kidney 9. So kidney 9, the name of kidney 9 is called guest house. And I love this because it allows us to be the observer in our own experience. And so for me, kidney 9 represented having that near-death experience and being able to have a complete life review without judgment. So I observed everything, but it was from a place of love, but it was a separation to where I was able to judge, but it wasn't just pure ego, right? So that's kidney 9.
More neutral.
Totally neutral. Neutral, but understanding that my actions had had complications and effects for sure.
Okay.
So the next one is, and so Yin Wei deals with the self of the self story. Yang Wei it's still the story, but it's almost dealing with how the physical actions that we've taken affect us. Right. And so Yin Wei would be more of a thought. Yang Wei would be more of something that happened to us physically that left an imprint. It could be an accident. It could be a physical altercation. It could be an individual who went to war and did things that they didn't think they could ever do. Right. And now they have to come back. So Yang Wei works with PTSD, works with different types of PTSD, of physical abuse, physical trauma. And so the next channel would be Yin. And so that's the cycles of 7 and 8. And so every 7 or 8 years, 7 for female, 8 for males, again, doesn't really mean much, honestly. It's really cycles of 7 and 8. Around these cycles of 7 and 8 are generally major life events. And I guarantee you, if you sat down with a piece of paper and you wrote down either cycle of 7 or 8, man or woman, whatever, look and see what happened around those times. And it might surprise you to say, like, okay, I had whatever. I mean, my near-death experience was when I was 14. 14 years old, 21, whatever, another one, so it's like these major life events that record a imprint in time.
Okay.
Yang Wei, I'm sorry, Yin Chao, okay, deals with how do we know ourselves, right? So we're moving through time now, right? Yin Chao is a record of, okay, I'm pretty good. I can do this, right? The world's not, it's pretty tough, but I think I can find my way back to the center. Yin Chao is about self-worth, self-esteem. How do you feel about yourself, right? How do you stand up to yourself? And this is the one where Yin Chao deals with kind of the accumulations of life. And this is where it gets a little funky, but it deals with what they call the Gui, or the ghosts. So I'm sure many listeners are listening and saying, okay, yeah, ghosts are real. Some people are like, no, ghosts aren't real. But in classical and Daoist traditions, they absolutely believed in ghosts, because ghosts is just another vibratory pattern for something that has moved on or moved to a different vibration. So a lot of times these ghosts or Gui attach themselves to individuals who, for whatever reason, generally it's when we're in a weakened state, when we're hanging out in a bar and we're miserable and you're hanging out with a bunch of ghosts, so it also deals with autoimmune diseases. Now, why would it do that? That's because ghosts would be considered viruses and bacteria. It would be considered injectable substances, right?
Mhm.
So when I'm working with individuals who have taken a shot or
Mhm.
even have long issues of a virus,
Mhm.
I would work generally in this world.
Mhm.
I would work in probably the Yin Chao, because the Yin Chao, what it does is allows the body to, look at that and process it and either expel it or put it into latency.
Mhm.
And if the person is really strong,
Mhm.
it can be driven out. If the person is weak, it can be put into latency
Mhm.
to where we can build the person up and later expel it at a later date. But the latency would still inactivate it. It would just keep it in latency.
Mhm.
Yang Chao, I'm almost done, I swear.
Okay.
Yang Chao is the channel of self-realization, right? It's how do we see the world? This is the channel of I'm looking out into the world and everything is happening the way it should. And that's a tough stance to take. That's a really tough stance to take. Now, coincidentally or not, this is also the channel of the highest advanced spiritual state someone can take in the Eight Extraordinaries. Because if it's good, it's supposed to happen.
Right.
If it's bad, it's supposed to happen. If so it's a very tough one to have.
If you're not happy with the way things are, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And again, like, should people protest? Yeah, sure. And again, and that's the beauty of the Taoist tradition, the Taoist aspect. It's like, okay, yes. Can you protest? Yes. But does the protesting become all encompassing and control your life and stop you from advancing? Maybe it does. That's a choice you need to make. And so there's one more channel, and then this is it. The Daimai. The Daimai is the belt channel. It's the only channel that runs horizontal around the body. It's what my teacher would say, the cosmic hula hoop. Right. It's the spin of our being, right? It's how we orient ourselves spatially in space. We have the vertical and we have the horizontal. And so the Daimai deals with everything that we're holding on to, all of the ideas and the stories and the relationships that we carry with us from relationship or this to that. It's the things that no longer serve us. So the things that no longer serve us and we want to get rid of, we work with the Daimai channel.
I hope the listeners are finding this as fascinating as I am finding it. I mean, I almost went to acupuncture school and I know a fair amount, I won't say a lot about Chinese medicine. So I'm really finding this fascinating. So maybe I'm finding it more fascinating than someone else might, but okay, so let's bring this back around to how can people utilize this knowledge to be useful, to help themselves, to grow, to feel better, to be more present, to feel better about where they're at, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. I'm not going to lie, that's tough, but it's one of those that the I think kind of the overriding theme is that there's ways to work on things that we may not have thought were able to be worked on. There's ways to tap into aspects of yourself that maybe you never even thought about, or maybe you always thought were there, but didn't quite know what to do. So I'm really trying to, I'm thinking that if I can come up with a couple of PDFs and a listing of maybe stones that match those channels.
Yes.
Those stones are easily available. Anyone can get them. And if maybe I do a little quick synopsis of what the channel is and the stone that goes with it, that's something I think that people can readily do. And stone medicine is very powerful. My teacher said it was heaven's energy in solid form.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I know.
I'm holding a Madagascar crystal as we've been talking today.
Nice. I'm looking at selenite. So uh, yeah, I mean, I'm not head to toe in crystals, but I've seen what they can do as far as just being placed in a room,
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny. People are like, oh, crystals. And it's like, okay, well, remember, don't forget what DVDs and CDs and
Mm-hmm.
computers are made out of.
Right.
It's crystals,
Right. Yeah.
so
I've been doing a lot with shungite lately for EMFs, and
okay.
there's a woman who makes these. She calls them empaths mala for people who tend to,
Nice.
if like there's someone in the household's been very emotional lately, so I thought I'm putting this on just because I tend to
Right.
take it
Yeah.
in, and I want to be empathetic, right? But I don't want to take it in, and I tend to be effective.
And I'm so glad you said that right there. I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the ones where people who are empaths, or people who are maybe even considering about going into the healing profession, or maybe they're a caretaker, or maybe they're in a relationship that they feel like they're trapped and they can't get out of,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so toxic. And I mean, no matter what it is um, going
Mm-hmm.
back to self cultivation. And I know I went through all of these amazing channels, and they sound so awesome and great and this and that, but I swear it's as simple as going outside,
Mm-hmm.
grounding. Just take your shoes off, go outside, ground, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, seriously, I know it sounds so like, hey, whatever, but it's one of those where what's the word?
Mm-hmm.
Inner smile
Mm-hmm.
qigong. Inner smile qigong. You just stand out there, you hold your hands out in
Mm-hmm.
front of you about chest high. You imagine
Mm-hmm.
a chi ball in front of you. You get to that place, you put a smile on your face, and all of a sudden you start moving that chi ball around. And as you're smiling, you're closing your eyes and you're allowing that chi to just flow. And then you take that energy and you
Mm-hmm.
just pull it towards you. It literally can be that. And that right there, I'm telling you just from personal experience, I could be having a
Mm-hmm.
really crappy day, right? And it's just nothing's going right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 6 minutes, take my shoes off, do some smiling heart qigong, and it's just like putting on
Wow.
an amazing song, right? Like, you know what I mean? Rolling the windows down, putting
Yep.
on a great
Yep.
song, anything to change that vibration.
Smiling heart qigong. That's what it's called.
Yeah,
Okay.
smiling heart
All
qigong.
right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
people can Google that, and there's some really cool, easy practices to do. Very easy. Again, a lot of this stuff is
Yep.
it's
Just
easy.
got to
It's
do it.
simple. It's supposed to be
So,
simple.
okay.
Yeah.
So, how about before we end, can you give the listeners a little, well, like about your tinctures or herbs, or what can people do? Say if they've got, like for respiratory issues, I tell people everybody should have a little, with the mesh technology, just a little portable nebulizer that they can put some saline and hydrogen peroxide and a drop of iodine in. What things
Mhm.
Chinese medicine wise can people do for all that's going on right now? What are some of the things that you have experienced that work?
Uh, let's see. I don't, Janine, you're going to make this podcast even longer. No, it's funny because I'm trying to condense so much, because I'm also an herbalist, right? So a lot of these different things I would
Should we do that as another one? Should we do that as
we
another one
totally
and
could.
keep this part as the eight extraordinary meridians?
I think so. I think so. But I just want to say, like, there are, uh, stones and things like that that do work on respiratory. There are,
Okay.
for sure. Um, but it's one of those that I'm thinking with this is more along the lines of just an overall general. If we can get into a space of a really high vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're a high vibration, that in itself is so transformative,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not that I don't prescribe herbs and formulas and tinctures. Absolutely, I do. But the beauty of Chinese medicine, and kind of the maybe the downside a little bit, is that most of the formulas are so tailored to the
Mm.
patient,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean there aren't general formulas for certain conditions, because there absolutely is. But my biggest thing that I'm trying to tell my patients as quickly as I can on certain things is diet. Diet is absolutely essential. Make sure you're eating good, clean food, good, clean water. Make sure you're getting out into the sunlight and you're seeing the sun. If you're able to go out in the middle of the day, right, with 50% of your body exposed, right, legs and arms, that's the time that they told us not to go out into the sun, right? But that, yeah, that's the time that we actually make vitamin D3. So going out there, standing in the sun, staying hydrated, making sure you have electrolytes in your body, coconut water, electrolyte, all of these things take care of that human side of us. A really solid, proper multivitamin. D3, fatty fish, good butter, good fats, good proteins. I always tell patients, when you walk into the grocery store, turn right, go all the way around, avoid the middle, and then leave.
Yep. Unless you want to get a few crackers or something.
Yeah, but it's, as long as you're, and trust me, I'm not a saint when it comes to that all the time, but, and that's the thing too, there's a lot of grace in that. But as long as you are focusing on clean foods, doesn't mean you can't cheat from now and then, but if it's 85% of your life, you're going to do fine. Right. And
And you can go through things quickly. Like a couple of weeks ago, I came down with what I call a cold detox. Detox. And I haven't in years and years. So my attitude was, it's about time I do a detox. And so I just, I did the nebulizer right away, and I extra C and all my different things, and lasered my throat and all that. And I really just had one really shitty day. Where I really felt like crap. And the rest of the time, it just felt like I was recovering my energy. And honestly, I took advantage of it, and I pretty much stayed in my PJs all week.
God, that sounds amazing.
And I know it was. I thought, okay, I'm going to make the most out of this. So a lot of it, I think, was my attitude too. And Stephen, I probably wouldn't have even thought of that, except Stephen brought it up to me. He said, usually in years past, when something like this would happen, you'd get really angry and upset. He said, your whole attitude is totally different this time. I thought, that's interesting.
So that right there is huge. And like, there's something that people can do. And again, I want to go back to that humanity. Don't forget that you're operating in a world with other souls having a human experience. Like, just don't forget that. It's like, just be a little nicer. That, it's like, do something, hold the door for someone, pick up a pen that somebody dropped. Let's get away from the let's stay 6 feet apart.
Oh, God, what a stupid idea that was anyway.
Right. So let's get back to having a community where we take care of each other, and we, like, those are the frameworks of Chinese medicine. Acupuncture, and there's a chart, and I never remember all the indications, but there's 10 things, right? There's 10 levels of health. The first one is basically just live life, right? Breathe, be happy. The 10th one is acupuncture. So what they're saying is if you've gotten to acupuncture, you've got a bad doctor, because they should have kept you healthy with all the other stuff they're doing. So when you get, so it's, what I'm saying is acupuncture is amazing. Of course, I do it all the time. Obviously I'm doing it every day in the clinic, but it's the things that I'm doing and the patients are doing outside of clinic, like have the certain herbal supplements I've told them, this and the herbs, and living life, and keeping a gratitude journal, like things like that. And remember that we're not here that long.
True.
We're really not.
Yep.
And life sneaks up pretty fast. And so it's one of those where do something that you enjoy, really, truly enjoy. And I don't care if it's paddleboarding or walking a dog or whatever. Do something you really enjoy and nourish your heart.
Nourish your heart. Yes, that's an important point. So the 8 Extraordinary Meridians, that is the, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the Daoist aspect of acupuncture.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And you said that if somebody's really interested in exploring this more, they should go online to, you said Daoist Traditions?
Yes, Daoist Traditions is a medical college in Ashville, North Carolina.
Okay, that's the name of the college. Okay. All
They're
right.
looking for a practitioner.
All right, in Asheville. Okay.
And I'm going to try to put some stuff on my website too. I'm redoing my website because I'm getting ready to launch one of my tinctures.
Oh,
in the
what
next
is your
couple of
website?
days.
What is your website?
So it's drbwellnessclinic.com. So it would be DRB, like the letter boy, wellnessclinic.com.
Okay.
So drbwellnessclinic.com.
Okay, so that will this will all be on the show notes, and whatever you want to give me to go into the show notes too, I will also, of course, put there.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you would like to come back and talk about herbs and tinctures and the different things that people can do to stay healthy in this difficult, stressful time, from a Chinese medicine perspective, we can do that.
I would love that.
Awesome. Well, Brian, once again, this has really been wonderful. And I thank you so much for, all of your expertise and your heart mostly. Because your knowledge, you're extremely knowledgeable, but I really appreciate your heart.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm same to you. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoy talking with you.
Oh, thank you. I also, talking to you, I've said to my friends, so many, I would say the majority of the people that I've had conversations with, it's like another piece of my soul family coming in, and it feels that way with most of the people. I think that's why I have the people on that I do, because they're part of my soul family, and we're reconnecting.
Completely.
Which is really important at this time.
Very, very important. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too. Okay, everyone. The podcast website is realjanine.com. And remember, Janine is Janeean. Please consider subscribing through your favorite podcast provider. And please share this conversation with your family and friends. You can find video slideshows of all my conversations on BitChute and Rumble. And because this isn't a particularly controversial subject, I will put this on YouTube also. Please share with your family and friends. Thank you so much for listening. Take care and be well.